Welcome to the Run for God Run Club, where you will find God in a runner's space.
Welcome to the Run for God Run Club. This is your one stop each week to be motivated and inspired to get off the couch and onto the running trail where you can, in turn, inspire others to do the same. Let's learn, laugh, and leap into running together, giving God the glory for what we are able to do in His name. Amen. I am your running host, Dean Thompson, and isn't it a great day? And it's about to get better because we're going to talk about two great subjects, running and Jesus. Awesome, right? Well, joining me this week is a guy who was in Mitchell's first original Run for God class, and a guy that we know very, very well and has been really vital to the success of Run for God. And this is the other half of Gay Coker. This is Shannon Coker. Welcome, Shannon.
I'm just great to be here.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to let Mitchell take the day off, for lots of reasons, but I'm
filling in some big shoes.
Yeah, it's all good. You'll do a great job. Last week we had episode 100, which you haven't heard yet.
Nope.
It's with H.R. Poe.
Oh man,
and it was fantastic.
Oh, H.R. is he just blessings come out of his mouth. Just even speaking words, I tell you.
Yes, he does. And then of course now we've got Shannon here, so this is kind of back to the Run for God roots, which makes it kind of fun. And you have kind of had a front row seat for Run for God. I mean, from the very beginning, right?
Yes, I've been a part of Run for God since its birth.
Yeah.
I was in Mitchell's first class,
2010, right? January of 2010.
It was in Mitchell's first class. He put up a flyer, and me and Gay thought we were going to a Bible study.
And here we are, many miles and races later. All right, first, let's talk about our sponsor for the day. Our sponsor this week is Trinity Disposal. It is the go-to disposal company for Whitfield County and surrounding counties. Trinity offers weekly residential trash collection and commercial front-end load dumpsters. Trinity is very detail-oriented and has an excellent customer service reputation. So, if you are interested in the top-of-the-line disposal service, Trinity Disposal is the route for you. And it's no coincidence that this company is called Trinity Disposal.
They're a great company. We use them at our house, and they're prompt and have prompt service. They're good folks.
Good folks. All right, how about a Facebook post from this week? It comes from Stephanie Pinchak Marino, and this is what it says. When Moses led God's people from Egypt, God did not give the Israelites their land immediately. He took care of their enemies little by little to give them a chance to grow strong enough to take care of the land. We have to grow into and be ready for whatever God has for us, including running a marathon. Little by little, each lesson, each workout, each stretch, each mile, each step. Many will take this journey in a year. Many will not. But little by little, God is preparing you so that when the time comes, you will be ready. So go get it. Every day, a little more. You will be strong enough. Quote, but I won't do all this in the first year because the land would become poor and wild animals would be everywhere. Instead, I will force out your enemies little by little and give your nation time to grow strong enough to take over the land. That comes from Exodus 23, 29, and 30. Yeah, I think this is kind of lost on us today. The whole idea of delayed gratification, that we work hard for something today that we're going to get later, is in this generation, because we put food in the microwave. Exactly. We got it in seconds. Everything comes to us. So we order from Amazon Prime so we can get, and we're mad if it's not there in 2 days, right? Everything is so instant now. And you remember when we were young, nothing was that quick.
No, waited.
Yeah. You ordered something from in a catalog. A lot of times you might have sent in a sheet of paper, had to be mailed. and it would take 2 days to get there at least, and then they'd take them 6 to 8 weeks to fill the order,
and then you had to drive down and pick it up.
Yeah.
Then you had to drive down and pick it up.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game now. So we don't really like this whole idea of delayed gratification, which is something that's what running is. It's I'm working hard today, and I'm not going to change my life from one day to the next.
Lord, no.
It's workout after workout after workout that makes a difference. And the funny part is, you ever listen to those commercials where they'll say, you can get in great shape 5 minutes a week, or some crazy thing like that. And it's like, no. Don't listen to all of that is misleading. There's no workout system out there that you're going to be able to work 5 minutes a week and get into shape. But there's all sorts of people telling us that that's possible, and it's just not. And so the way she talks about it in here, it's like one workout doesn't make a big difference, right? One workout is not, it's just adding a little bit, but it's the accumulation. 4 weeks of all of those workouts strung together make a huge difference, right?
Very much so.
And of course, on the Couch to Marathon journey, it just takes time.
It takes a lot of time.
Yep. And you learned that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
So if you're out there and wondering, learn to savor all those difficult steps because they're all worth it. And you need to understand that as you struggle through that and as it gets hard, that there's beauty in that struggle. But you have to want to see that in it, right? Because it's like that person who has that dog who's not real attractive, but they see that dog and they really believe that dog is beautiful. And you're like, yeah, it's a beautiful dog, right?
You got to want it.
Yeah. It's the same thing with these workouts. It may not look pretty to somebody from the outside, but from your perspective, it's beautiful because it's getting you in better shape,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. All right, we had a trivia question last week, and this is what our trivia question was. It was a question about a Winter Olympic sport. Cross-country skiing is closely related to running. There are two styles of cross-country skiing. What is the event called in which you ski half the race using one type and the second half using the second type of skiing? Did you know the answer to this one?
No, I didn't, but I did find out that during the cross-country skiing that the gold medalist winner, forgot what country it was, he waited till the last skier came across the finish line to get on the podium to accept his medal. And that's what we did at Run for God. We wait for the last finisher to come across the line before we start anything. And I always thought, isn't it as big as the Olympic is? He waited and waited for these hundreds and hundreds of runners to come across before he would even get up and accept his gold medal. I just thought that was just
that is awesome. That is awesome. I'm gonna have to look that one up because I didn't see that happen.
I found it on the media search and through the Olympics, and I've been watching Olympics off and on, and we almost got third bronze in biathlon, but we missed it by 3 shots. The guy missed it by 3 shots, and so he fell back to 7th by that time. So it's crazy. Laying on your belly and shooting is crazy.
Fun to watch for sure. Well, cross-country skiing has been featured at every edition of the Winter Olympics. So ever since the Winter Olympics started in, I want to say it was 1928. I can't remember for sure. There has been cross-country skiing in the Olympics. And of course, this year in Beijing, the number of events are, there's a sprint, there's a team sprint, there's the classic, the relay, the mass start, and then the answer to this week's trivia question, which is ski-athlon is what it's called. So found this article by a guy named Arash Ansari, and he explains a lot of this stuff. So thought we might go through this. The different types of cross-country skiing, because cross-country skiing really is related a lot to running. And what you find out is that if you know what VO2 max is, and that's a measure of our ability to process oxygen, some of the highest VO2 maxes in the world are from cross-country skiers, not necessarily runners.
They consume a lot of calories too.
Yes, they do. Cross-country skiing, again, 1924. Sorry, I missed it by one Olympics. This and cross-country skiing, it's a great endurance event. Again, it started in 1924 with two events. They had the 18K and then the 15K, and only men competed in cross-country skiing in the original Olympics. It has now grown to 12 events, and of course 6 of those are men and 6 are women. The women's events weren't added to the Olympics until 1952. Which we find that a lot in a lot of things. We feel like it's been, it was a long time ago. It's not been that long ago that, for example, women didn't run the marathon in the Olympics until 1984.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, so here's some of the styles and starts. So there's 2 distinct techniques of skiing at the Winter Olympics. One is called classical. One is called freestyle. And the classical technique is kind of like moving your skis forward, where you just, it's a little different than running. But then the freestyle technique is where you kind of move side to side. You look more like a speed skater when you're doing freestyle, as opposed to moving those skis just forward instead of side to side. And the freestyle technique is a little bit faster. Also, the skis in freestyle are shorter than the classical. So that's an interesting thought. I didn't realize that. They use ski poles in both of them. There's also a couple of different types of starts in cross-country skiing. There's a mass start and there's an interval start. Most races are held with the interval start. And then what that means is that each athlete just starts, they'll start them, let's say, 10 seconds apart, or however far apart they start each skier. That's the way most of the events are. So, again, let's talk about skiathlon, because skiathlon, again, combines both techniques. Skiers begin the race. They use that classical technique to start the race, and then they switch to freestyle at the halfway mark. So if the reason why they call it skiathlon, I'm assuming, is if you know anything about triathlon, you've seen that transition area. Well, they have their transition area. It looks a lot like a bicycle transition area, and they go in and they switch those skis and they keep going. The men's race is 30 kilometers long, meaning the athletes will use the classical in the first 15K and then the freestyle for the last 15K. The women are the same way, except their race, the overall distance is 15K, so each leg is half what the men's is. And again, they change skis halfway through. Some of the other events they have, the sprint free. Sprint free requires competitors to finish the race using the freestyle technique. It's the shortest cross-country event at the Winter Games. It's only 1.4 kilometers long for men and 1.2 kilometers for women. So for by ski terms, cross-country ski terms, these are really, really short events. So it's a lot like the sprint events in the Summer Olympics. If you've ever watched the 100 meters, they go through round after round until they get down to their last however many, and then I think it's 8 in the Summer Olympics, and then those 8 sprint for the win, and they do it very, very similar. So the top 30 athletes advance to the quarterfinal, and then they're divided into 5 groups of 6, and then they keep narrowing down until the final race features 6 athletes. So that's very, very similar. Then there's the Team Sprint Classic. 2 athletes from one country join forces in the team event, which what they do here is it's a 6-lap race. And so they'll have a male and they have a men's team and a women's team. They'll take that, what they'll do is they'll alternate laps. So out of those 6 laps, you'll have the first skier ski in the first lap, then the second skier ski the second lap. So, and then they alternate until they finish those 6 laps. And so, in the case of the men's race, it is 8.4 kilometers, and then it's 7.5 kilometers for women. So that's the team sprint. And again, it begins with 2 semifinals, and then there's 10 teams that move ahead into the final. And then the classic is that's the individual race. It's where competitors use the classic stroke to complete the course. It's 15K for men and 10K for women. And again, it's one of those interval starts where they start every 30 seconds apart. And then the person who has the fastest time wins. So it's just one race, no qualifying, nothing like that. And the relay event, you have 4 members. And it's a relay, like the traditional relay you'd see on the track. And then for women, the relay is 4 times 5 kilometer legs, and the men's is 4 times 10 kilometer legs. So that's and then the last event of cross country skiing in the Olympics is the mass start. The mass start is like a marathon at the Summer Olympics where everybody starts together. It's 50 kilometers for men and it's 30 kilometers for women. Now just imagine 50 kilometers is longer than a running marathon. It's 31 miles, and 30 kilometers is about a little over 18 and a half miles for women. And that race is usually held on a loop that you repeat over and over again, so that it'd be hard to set out a course that long and have it just be one course. Depending on where you're at, I guess. So this is interesting. In the Pyeongchang Olympics back in 2018, they used the classical technique, but in Beijing this year, they used the freestyle technique. So that sounds weird to me that they changed from one to the other. I'm not sure why that is, but that's what the deal was. So
notice the competitors, it's not a flat course. There's a lot of hills and ups and downs. It's not really a flat course.
Yeah, I like to talk to runners about cross-country skiing because they watch them go downhill and they're like, man, I wish I could relax like that in a running race, but they don't realize how hard some of that uphill is a lot harder than it is running. Yeah, that is tough for sure. All right, so you like the Olympics?
I like the Olympics. Some of it I watched, some of it I didn't watch. I'll watch.
What's your favorite Winter Olympic sport?
I do like the curling. I've watched it more than anything. I really do like to watch them slide across the ice, and especially the different competitors, the way they do. And now, I think they're into the team part of it now, but it's been really exciting to watch. And the guys on the biathlon are really neat to watch. They come down there and lay straight down, and if the gun jams, they get in a bind or they misfire, they have to grab an extra bullet and stick it in there. It's really, really, really
it's fun to watch.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. And you know what I've always thought is interesting about these things is, as runners, we know there's probably a race going on somewhere every weekend. Every weekend, there's people that gather for a race. People who don't follow running don't even realize that happens unless they happen to get up early on a Saturday morning and drive through an area where there's a race. They don't even know what's happening. All of these sports that are going on in the Olympics that we never see, we only see it once every 4 years in the Olympics, they're all going on all the time. We just don't see them.
That's right.
I think that's interesting.
I think it is. It's crazy to see everything, to see all these grouped together, competitors.
It's fun. All right. So don't forget that if you're out there and you've been part of Run Club, or you just like listening to this podcast, we have a new 5K challenge starting on April the 3rd. Now, if you've never run before and for some reason you're listening to this, that's a great time to start running. If you have been running, which I would assume is the majority of the folks listening to this, then we want you to think about teaching a class at that time. Now, teaching a class can take a lot of different forms. I'll tell you what I did. In my case, when I taught the class, I decided I made up a flyer and I went around my neighborhood. My neighborhood has about 30 houses in it. It's a relatively small neighborhood, but I went around to all those houses and I just knocked on people's doors and I invited them. And I went to the school and I invited some of the teachers at the school. And we had a really nice group that did it that way. And there's so many other ways to do it. But you got to get out there. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about people and bringing people into a class. Most people want to be talked into it. Yep. A lot of people don't want to, you can't just put a poster up and people are going to come. Now, some people will. There are certainly those folks who do that. But you got to encourage people. And if you have to dare them, then do it. Then do it. Yeah. But man, I'll tell you what, as we always say, whether you're taking the class or teaching the class, it'll change your life. Right?
Coaching is the best part of it.
Yeah, you've been through both.
Yes.
That's right. Yep,
sure have.
And don't forget about the 5K in Dalton. That's coming up in April. So if you're part of Run Club, you get to run that race for free. Now, we'll be sending out a code for that about a month or so beforehand. So hang on if you are part of Run Club. If you're not part of Run Club, maybe this is a good reason to become part of Run Club, to run a free race. It's here in Dalton, and we have a gathering before the race. Then we have the race itself, and then the next day we go to church, and it's just, we have a great time. And man,
weekend. It's an awesome weekend.
Yeah, you'll want to be a part of that for sure. So, again, if you're a Run Club member, the cost is free 90 free.
Can't beat that.
Can't beat it at all.
If your teen is into rock and metal music that makes your ears bleed and your grandmother clutch her pearls, we can help. If your spouse yearns for music from the old days and wants to relive the music of their glory years, we can handle that. If you need a break from the day to spend time with God and recognize His goodness, we'd love to be a part of that. Whether it's rock and metal, classic songs from decades past, or heartfelt worship music, J Radio has you covered. Sign up for an account at jradio.com and download the app in your app store to start listening for free today.
All right, we're back. And so you just heard a commercial for J Radio. Have you checked out J Radio yet? There are some great playlists on J Radio, and you might want to check those out. All the songs on there are guaranteed to be good, family-oriented, God-fearing songs, and so check out J Radio. And don't forget that if you have questions, if there's something I can help you with, you can email me at dean@runforgod.com. Certainly tune in on Thursday nights. We have a live session every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook Live on the Run Club Facebook page. And we talk about whatever, and some weeks we're going to talk about some really in-depth running issue, and some weeks it's just a Bible study.
Exactly.
And so you never know what we're going to do on Thursday nights. Sometimes we preview or review a race or something like that. So check out Thursday nights. And
it's a fun day. It's a fun evening.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I can't stress this enough. We need your stories, right? We're starting to get low on stories. We need some more folks to write their story and send it in. Now, there's somebody out there I'm talking to right now who hasn't sent their story in, but you've thought about it. You've thought about it multiple times, and you've thought, I need to do that, and you haven't done it yet. Well, do it. Go ahead and do it. Get it done. Now's a great time. And
it takes a few minutes.
That's right. So write your story, and we'll and listen. Maybe you're one of those who lives fairly close by, or you have the means to get to Dalton, Georgia, and you want to do this live like Shannon is right now. And if you're that person, we would love to have you. It's so much fun to do this. And so if you're that person, then maybe you want to do it live. Let us know if you want to do that, and we'll try to fit that in as well. So. All right. So tell me, Shannon, how many Run for God shirts do you even have?
Well, when I saw this question, I said, I got to go in my closet.
Did you check?
I did check. And I got to 100.
Oh, my gosh.
I got to 100, and I said, I'll better stop.
Oh, my goodness. That's a lot of shirts.
It is. That's not counting hoodies.
And hats.
And hats. Now, I'm a hat guy. I love hats. I love visors, too. I'm a visor kind of guy, too.
Yeah, yeah. So, again, we talked about it. You've been here from the beginning. Isn't it kind of cool to have been here from the beginning and kind of seen where it's gone?
You know, when this was placed in Mitchell's heart, you know, and how God moved, it's just how it started with a little place in Dalton, Georgia. Then it moved from there. Then it moved from there. Now it's worldwide. And I mean, it's just amazing how it's brought people together stronger in friendships and physically and especially spiritually. You know, you just grow so much by seeing the Facebook post, and you grow a lot by just hearing people's stories. I don't know how many times I've been out running and I pop a podcast in, and wow, that's a neat story.
Yeah.
It is a neat story.
Yeah, it's really cool. So did you see back in 2010 when you started with Run for God, you graduated that first class, maybe you were probably in the second class as well, I would imagine. So did you see Run for God kind of growing into what it is today?
I had no idea, but I've seen God use this ministry in a mighty, mighty way. I mean, and I know there's been struggles along the way, but God has always stepped in there and just come in there and moved and just put an idea in Mitchell's life. It's crazy how, and all of a sudden, boom, it takes off.
Yeah.
takes off. It's just crazy how it's moved so quickly.
It's you can tell it's God because
It's God.
when it's crazy, you know it's God.
It's
right?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. It's awesome to see. You know, David Hendricks may have been the only one who knew from the beginning. You remember when David Hendricks, his comment from the very beginning was, "This thing's going to be huge."
That's David.
You know, and he had it. He knew.
Exactly.
And of course, now you know that the Couch to Marathon works as well, right? Because you went through that whole thing.
I went from the January 2021, and it works. You know, it works.
And you did about every workout, right?
I sure did.
Yeah.
I did every workout and did every run, did every.
So you didn't miss a single workout. Did you miss any?
I might have, because work struggles.
Sure.
You know, I work in a plant. Some days I'll just wear slap dab out, and it was hard to.
Yeah.
I might have walked some, but there are days that I didn't miss.
Yeah. So everybody that's listening to this, you know, it's okay.
Oh,
it's okay.
Definitely okay.
But you saw the finish line.
I saw it.
You saw the finish line because you finished almost all the workouts.
That's right.
Right.
Sure did.
Yep, exactly. So how long have you and Gay been together?
Me and Gay have been married 36 years.
Wow.
36 years. And
if you're listening to this and you're wondering who Gay is, because I'm sure there's a few out there that don't know who Gay is, but Gay she's basically customer service for Run for God. And Gay she prays every day for everybody in Run Club. She's a very, very faithful lady and has worked with us for years. And it's just her heart to want to help people is just tremendous. And you and her, y'all are a good fit together because you're both like that.
Married up.
And so you crossed that finish line at Disney.
I did, and it's just.
What?
I want to start crying again.
Well, that's what your story's about, right?
Yeah, it's about Disney.
It's kind of that journey. So
journey.
I'm going to back off now, and I'm going to let you share your story. Shannon's story is entitled, "God Will Meet You Every Mile."
I joined up with Run for God when the first flyer came up in our church 12 years ago. Yep, I was in Mitchell's first class. I had no idea what lay ahead in my journey becoming more spiritually and physically fit. In the challenge that grew my faith. But let's run forward. I am blessed to serve as a coach alongside their team Run for God. I have run 5Ks, 10Ks, and half marathons. I've served as a volunteer in more races than I can even count. I've grown spiritually and physically on the way. My wife, Gay, have grown much closer, stronger in serving in the Run for God ministry. Now, let's run forward to 2021, the Couch Marathon Challenge. Did I say marathon? I'm 60 years old. I think about it every time the words 26.2, can I do this? Well, the challenge was accepted, and Mitchell dared us to do it. Run for God had put together a plan of 5K in 12 weeks, 10K in 12 weeks, half marathon in 12 weeks, and to top it all off, a marathon in 12 weeks. 12 weeks. God, can I do this? I asked. Well, I accepted the challenge with support of a Gay and encouragement from the Run for God Facebook group and strong running friendships. I trained. It was cold. It was hot. It was time consuming, and it was hard. There were time conflicts and running struggles. I learned a lot and grew my faith. The days when I was tired from work, from being on the production line, the days when it was hot outside and rainy, Gay was there to tell me, yes, you can. You made the commitment and the challenge to myself and God. I prayed and listened to a lot of uplifting music and podcasts along the way. Chris McClary wrote a song, Speak to the Mountains. I cannot count how many times I heard this song along my runs. My God is strong, and the victory is already won. The line says, let's run along to Sunday, Disney Marathon. 2022 in Orlando, Florida. Saddle Up is one of John Wayne's biggest quotes in one of my favorite movies. It was a balmy 70 degrees at 5 a.m. The training was done. The hay is in the barn. I had the best night's rest I'd ever had before a race. Was I nervous? You bet I was. And worried too. There were thousands of runners just like me doing their first marathon. The fireworks went off and we started. I was confident in my pace, running well. As the sun came up, I was beginning to heat up. I trained in the heat, but between mile 18 and 20, my legs said no more. My mind said, move on. My legs were cramping due to the loss of sodium electrolytes. That's when I started talking to God and singing. I said, God, we got to finish strong here. My mind said yes, but I couldn't pick my feet up off the pavement. My heart sank. I wanted to run those last 26 miles. I walked, I stretched, and I prayed. I heard the music at the finish line. The victory was mine. The first person I saw was Gay. We hugged and tears flowed. We walked along and I saw Mitchell and Dean and their wives, and the tears flowed again. Guys and girls, young and old, this plan works. God by your side, and yes, I'll do it again. And with God's help, I'll do it even better the next time.
I have no doubt. Man, thanks for sharing that story. It was an emotional day for sure. Mitchell likes to dare people to do things, doesn't he?
Boy, he does. And he does it not in a small way. He does it in a big way.
Yeah. He's done it to me too. I remember because you and we actually rode into the start together.
Yeah.
And so I knew what you were wearing. And because the normal Dean wouldn't have thought to look and remembered what you were wearing. But that day I remembered what you were wearing. You were in a red Run for God shirt. Yeah. And I remember, I knew I was watching the app that told us where you were. And I remember looking at it and I realized I've been there. You know, I've run a number of marathons. I know how it is. I know how that second half, it gets to you. And I knew you'd slowed down anyway. And so the time that it projected, I knew you wouldn't be there at the time that it projected. And we waited. And I was like, man, I got to see that. I got to see that red shirt. I've got to see that red shirt. And then I started to worry. I thought, I hope they didn't have to pick him up. I hope they didn't not let him finish. And then boom, there you were.
Yeah.
Coming around and
pick me up.
And, it was a great thing to see. So how do you describe that last 10K of a marathon?
It's hard. It is mentally grueling.
And physically.
And very physically grueling. I mean, it's more than I could have ever imagined. You know, when I trained and I got here in Dalton and in Chattanooga, 20 miles. Wow, I've never run 20 miles in my life. And then you get to Disney and you put another 6.2 miles on the end of that. The weather was perfect. I mean, it was hot. I trained in the heat here in Dalton, but I just, and you get to that last 10.6 miles, and you can start hearing the music. You can start hearing the music. You can start hearing the cheers. And at Disney, when you finish up at Disney, you come through the back of Epcot. Mm-hmm. You're coming at the back of Epcot around the last bit of the countries. And I remember seeing cast members and spectators saying, "Go run for God."
Yeah.
I knew then that God was by my side and God was getting the glory. Because, Shannon, victory was mine because I finished the finish line. But to hear those people say, "Go run for God," they didn't see me; they saw the shirt. It's just
pretty awesome.
It is very awesome.
Pretty awesome. 1 Peter 5:10 says, "And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you." And you make the comment, that's a marathon verse right there.
It is.
And it is. And I'd never really looked at this verse as a running verse, but this is a great one. It's right after the verse where our adversary is roaming around like a lion. And we've talked about that verse a few times here on recent podcasts. So the suffering that's being described is what Satan is throwing at us. And so in the middle of a marathon, it's really easy for Satan to get a hold of that brain, isn't it?
Oh, it's most definitely easy. I mean, he can throw cramping. He can throw tight knots, and he can say, "No, you ain't gonna finish. You ain't got it in you to go."
Yeah.
But you got to get past that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have enough in your mind to get you past that.
And you were able to you beat him back pretty good. You got to that finish line. How does it feel now to have accomplished that?
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I really can't. I've started crying a while ago, but I mean every time I think about it, it's just an unbelievable feeling. I started like everybody else way back in January. And you train and you train and train, and then you come across that finish line, and wow, it's great.
Yeah,
it is really great, and it's an unbelievable feeling.
It's that delayed gratification thing I was talking about, because you work so hard for so many months, and then to have it all pay off right there in that moment, it's pretty overwhelming.
It is. I mean, there are days when, like, man, I'm dog tired. I can't go out and run this training run. But I had the training run on our refrigerator, and I was able to draw a line through every time I did one. Draw a line through every time. And there were days when it was just bone cold and the wind was blowing, and Gay said, "It might be bone cold and wind blowing in Disney. So you need to go train in Disney. You need to go train in the rain." And I did, and train in the heat, trained during some vacations we went on. We're campers. We love to camp. And I ran a lot of campground loops.
I've seen the Strava results from some of those, I think. So, yeah. So this verse says the suffering is worth it. So the marathon suffering was definitely worth it.
Yes, it is. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Here's another passage. Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. And then you make the comment that friendships build each other up. That's really a description of the Run Club group, isn't it?
The Run Club group, when you're a part of that Run Club group, you can post a tough run and bang, 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 just within minutes or within seconds. You did a good job. Keep going. I mean, everybody just lifts you up. I mean, and then you turn around and do it right back to another person, and you can just what they're feeling in their mind. Mm-hmm. It just lifts you up, and they're a great bunch of people. They're a great bunch.
There's something about people struggling together and everybody understanding each other's struggles. And I think that when you hear it from somebody who doesn't understand it, it means something. It's always great to hear positive words, but when you know that other person knows what you're going through, it means even more, doesn't it?
It does. It's especially now this year when you got a lot of people that are starting over. And you can tell that maybe, you were there. You were right there with them, and you know what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And then you see the cheers for them, and they just in the struggles they're having is like the struggles I had. It's just great. You're missing if you're not a part of that group.
Yeah, for sure. What I find interesting is, especially in this day and time now, obviously I'm not talking about this group, but I'm talking about there's a lot of people who find it difficult to lift people up. Gosh, we're not going to get into politics and stuff like that, but there's so much back and forth and so much division in the world. And it's great to be a part of a group that is just focused on being helpful and joyful.
That's right.
Right?
Exactly.
Which is different than what we see from most of the world. And I think it's a picture of what God calls us to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a training run that I went on. I don't know if it was actually a guy had posted it, and and we were actually traveling on vacation going that way, and he said, "Won't you come run this run with me?" And I ran this 10K with this gentleman, and I got more of that 10K than he did by listening to his story, and me and him talking back and forth for 6 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable.
Isn't that awesome?
Sharing each other's struggles and each other's hardship. Half the time we weren't talking about running; we were talking about life.
Yeah.
It was just amazing how this friendship has really grown.
Wow.
In the last few months.
That's pretty awesome.
It's really grown.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I was just with a group of guys this past weekend, which we'll talk about more later on this podcast. But you're right. Just hanging out with people, and especially somebody. I guess this was a guy you had just met when you were running with him.
Yeah.
And I met these guys. One of the guys I had met before. Two of the guys I had met before, but didn't know much about them, and got a chance to really hang out with them. And getting to hear other people's stories is just something special, for sure. I
hope this guy's able to share his story one day, but it's really awesome.
Yeah. And back to this idea of building each other up. I just don't understand why more people don't want to do that. Because it feels really good, not just to the person who's being built up, but it feels good to be that person who's trying to help build somebody up.
Yeah, just to say it. I mean, even in the workplace, it's even great to even say it.
And of course, in running, we get plenty of opportunities, don't we?
Exactly, plenty.
So, what do you think are some of the best ways we can build each other up?
We can offer prayer for this person or a group. We can give them, give words of wisdom as far as what you've struggled in your running, or if you're, say, not running and you're in the workplace, you can listen to this person, have an open mind, and maybe give them a good thought for the day, and don't let anything tear you down. Just keep moving forward.
Sometimes just listening, just being there, right?
Listening
is really good. Yeah, I agree. All right, another scripture, Psalm 37:5. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will bring it to pass. And you mentioned commit to the challenge, and that, of course, that's hitting the nail on the head, because if you're gonna do anything, it doesn't matter what it is, you have to decide up front that you're gonna do it. And when you take a bite of, okay, in a year I'm gonna run a marathon, that's a big bite.
When you push that trigger, push that button, it goes register. You're done. You're in. You're in, and you've got to. That's a commitment. It really is. I mean,
and commitment is tough, right? Because if you have commitment, then now I have accountability.
Exactly.
And accountability is can be a tough monster, because I'm sure those few workouts that you missed along this journey to the marathon, I'm sure you woke up the next morning, and how did you feel?
I missed one.
Yeah, you're like, and you can't get that one. You can't get it back.
Can't go back.
Yeah, and
you don't want to add two.
Yeah, and that's the accountability that you're holding yourself to.
Exactly.
And
you go back to that calendar. Well, I can't check that box off.
Right.
I didn't do it.
Yeah. Right.
It's the same way in your church life. I mean, if you're I'm a deacon in my church. I mean, that's a commitment right there to serve. I mean, or if you're, in your work life, get up and be at work every day. I mean, that's a commitment there.
It is. We have a ton of commitments.
Exactly.
Kids, if we got kids, we were committed to, when we decide to have kids, we just made a lifetime commitment.
Exactly.
And, but what's cool is that when we commit to these things and we follow through on them things, the treasures that we have at the end of those commitments are spectacular.
The victory.
I mean, you crossing that finish line of the marathon was just something special you'll never forget.
Nope.
Not only you, I won't forget your finish of the marathon, along with other people. Those were some great things. I think about, my kids, and I see the stuff that they do, and and you're proud of them, and you realize that all that time that you put into them. Totally. When you see them do something and it's a great thing, and the reason why they did that is because you kind of helped instill that in them, and you see that, it's like it just makes you feel good to know that commitment that you made many years ago has paid off.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
It is.
But if we ever go into any commitment, whether it's kids or it's going to the marathon or it's going to anything else, if we ever go into it wishy-washy, usually doesn't turn out good.
It doesn't turn out like you want it to be.
Because what happens? Satan gets in your head and starts beating on you, and you wind up going in the wrong direction because you're not strong enough.
That's right.
Yep.
You got to have something to fall back on.
Yeah. And again, I think because we talked about earlier, the instant world that we live in, I think that's why commitment is so hard these days, is because most of the things that we have these days, the everyday things, it's not a long-term commitment. It's a lot of things are just that they're here and they're over so fast because everything's disposable. Yeah. That's just not something that we're good at these days, I think.
No, we're not, because like you said before, we want it today, or we want it has to be done today, and it's just not.
Yeah. Here's a question. Can I do this challenge? What would you say to anybody out there who thinks they can't do it?
You can do it. I'm.
Did you have doubts going in?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I had to run. I have run up to 13 miles before. I had never passed that my threshold of 13 miles before. But when you cross that threshold of 13 miles, you think, well, I think I can. I think I can do this. And then you go the next little increments, you get a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger, and you think, oh, man, I think I can do this. I'm 60, and I've not been running that long at all. I've only been running since the beginning of Run God. I never saw myself as a runner. I ran a little bit in high school, but that's it. I mean, really. But, anybody that puts their mind to this, you can do this.
So let me ask you this. Did you look ahead at the beginning when we were still in the 5K challenge, which was easy for you because you had been through that before multiple times and had even taught that class before as a coach. But did you look ahead and go, oh, my goodness, in December, I'm going to have to do a 20-mile run? Did you look at that ahead, or were you just focused on the next step?
I think I didn't. I think I didn't look ahead until I got past 13.
Okay.
When I had ran 13 miles, I started looking ahead.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing what time of the year it was going to be in Dalton, Georgia.
Yeah.
December.
And it worried you a little?
It worried me a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because you never know what weather we're going to have in Dalton, Georgia. It can be warm and sunny, or it can be freezing cold, or it can be pouring down rain.
Yep. And
like my wife Gay said, it can be that way in Florida.
That's right.
So I did hesitate a little bit, when I did look ahead, especially when they got into.
Well, but not too far ahead.
No,
and that's what I always caution folks. Don't look too far ahead, because if today you're struggling with a 20-minute run, then if you look ahead and you see I'm going to have to do 20 miles, 10 months from now, 11 months from now, that's gonna knock you for a loop. You're going to look at that and go, there's just no way. I can't even run 20 minutes now. But the truth is that when you do it little by little and step by step, just like Stephanie said in that Facebook post, that's what it takes, right?
You've got to build that endurance. You've got to build your endurance like you do spiritually. You've got to build that endurance. You've got to build each week.
Yeah. Trust your training. That's a saying for a reason, right?
It is. It is.
Second question. Do I need support? Well, you had great support in Gay.
I did.
I liked her plain talk to you, saying, "Well, it could be this way at Disney." And
yeah, and she was such great support. I mean, the days that when I went on my long runs and I had to have a water or I had to have something to eat or something like that, she'd pull up by me and by the car and then stick it out the window. You've got to have that along the way, and you've got to have and I had the support of my parents.
Yeah,
I mean, my dad he'd be out working in the yard. He'd see me running. He'd throw his hand up or something like that.
Yeah.
I had the support of my own personal family and, of course, the support of the Run Club bunch. I mean, it's
pretty awesome.
It is.
Yeah. I can't help but think that because the people go, well, it was easy for Shannon. I mean, he had Gay who was there to, good heavens, pull up to him and bring him drinks. I don't have that. But we all have a couple of things. If you're in Run Club, you got the Run Club group, which is awesome in and of itself. Yeah, if you feel alone, just log in. Just get on the Facebook page and check it out. But secondly, we've all got God. God's on our side. Make no mistake, right?
Yep.
He's on our side. So, I did something recently that was that was pretty cool, but I almost didn't. And I'll tell you, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but here's what happened is I wasn't going to do it because I get real. I have 2 jobs and I get really, really busy. And I was really, really busy and I was thinking I don't have time to do this thing that I want to do. And so, but it was a really cool thing. And so I went to Debbie and I said, what do you think? And I really expected her to say, you got a lot going on, and it was going to force me to miss church, and I'd missed a couple of Sundays, and I usually don't miss any Sundays, right. And I'd already missed a couple of Sundays in the last month, and I really expected her to say, you probably shouldn't do it, but she said, it's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing. And so she encouraged me because I wouldn't have done it. Had she said, no, I think you probably shouldn't do it, it would have been over. I would have called up the guys I was meeting and tell them, sorry guys, I just can't justify it. But because I had that support,
yep.
And you'll find that support if I had gone to the Facebook page.
Oh, yeah.
And I had said, hey, I got this opportunity, but I'm really busy. What do you guys think? I would have gotten so much encouragement to go ahead and go through with that thing, right?
Exactly.
Just understand, and I guess you said it, I said it, we both said it. If you don't feel like you've got great support out of the gate, this Facebook group is really all the support you need, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, you can just start your journey and say, hey, I'm doing this, or hey, I'm going to do that. And it doesn't have to be a running journey. We see a lot of different things in the Facebook group, not associated with running.
That's right.
I mean, they're a group of people, and y'all said it before many times. They're a group of people that they just lay it all out there.
Yep.
They lay it on the line.
Yep.
And that this group is they're a wonderful bunch. I just can't say much more than that. They're just great.
Yeah, and here's what I know about people is if you get out there and you start working hard, sometimes the people that are not really super supportive to start with become supportive because they realize how hard you're working.
Yeah.
And again, I'll go back to when Debbie and I first got married, she knew I was a runner. And, I made it, we put all our cards on the table and I said, look, I love to run. I mean, like I really love to run. Like I'm going to run and there's going to be times where it's going to frustrate you. And I'm sorry for that ahead of time, but it's kind of just who I am. And I feel like it's what God gave me. Anyway, we have this discussion ahead of time. But when we first got married, there were times where it frustrated her. My running kind of got in the way of some things, and it because it takes up a lot of time, right?
Yep. It does.
But once she really saw how deep my heart was and how much I loved running and how much joy it brought me and that kind of thing, her heart just changed. And it went to that spot of now she's like, and this happened very quickly early in our marriage, but now she's like, you need to be careful of that. You're going to hurt those legs. Now she doesn't want anything to happen to me where I can't run. And she probably recognizes that I'm in a better mood if I'm running. But I guess my point is that when you go out there and you start working hard and people recognize that and they see that, they become your supporters. The people that are around you, if they're not supportive up front, they will become your supporters.
Yeah, unless I can't say enough about Gay. I mean, she's just, she knows that I like to run. And she knows that if I don't run, she knows how down I get.
Yeah.
Because I work inside and I'm used to being outside. And, aren't you going to run today? That's what, that's just,
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to have somebody like that for sure. Last question. I have to stick to it no matter what my mind says. Can you? Well, the answer is yes for everybody. Everybody can. And I can't stress that enough because there's some people out there, I hear it all the time, where somebody says, I just don't think I can do that. Well, you could.
Yes.
If you make up your mind to do it.
You sure
right?
can. I mean,
just about anybody listening here could do what you did this past year.
Exactly. I mean,
maybe not 100%, but pretty close.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
But here's what happens. We give in to scheduling conflicts. We give in to we're tired. We just give in to any number of things. And you had those struggles.
Oh, definitely.
You had scheduling conflicts.
Oh, yeah.
You had tiredness. You had times where you guys it's supposed to be vacation, right?
Yep.
You're out camping, you're on vacation, but you're not going to let that get in the way. And so many people I hear, well, I'm going on vacation, so I'm not going to run for a week. What?
No. That's those. You're committed. You committed in January. You need to follow through with that commitment, no matter where you are. I mean, even if it's a short little run, or if you're committed to something, follow through with that commitment, no matter what it is.
Yeah. And have you ever seen somebody quit smoking or quit drinking or something? Something that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard. And a lot of times those people, I know people who were alcoholics at one time who are not now. And you know how many, they had to try several times to get over that addiction. But they eventually did it because they were persistent. And the truth is they could have done it the first time, but they didn't want it bad enough the first time.
Exactly.
And eventually they came around to that point. So I guess if you don't know if you can do something or not, you probably can. But the question is, how much? You said I have to stick to it no matter what my mind says. How much are you doing that is the question, right? Because if you're really sticking to what you said you're going to do and you're holding yourself accountable to that, you can probably do that thing that's hard, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I see a lot of comments about those who are gonna try out this Coach to Marathon thing and just see how it goes, right? And if that's you, if you're out there and you're thinking, I'm going to just see how this goes. Some people go, there's two directions that people typically go if they're going to see how it goes. They either get on fire because they see other people and they go, okay, I can do this. And that's great. Or they go the opposite direction and they quit because it's easy to quit because I never really made the commitment in that case. So, yeah, for people who are on the couch, wouldn't you tell them to decide you're going to do it, right? You have
to make that first step. Yes, I'm going to do this. And yes, with the help of God, the help of my friends and family, I can do this.
And now, of course, there are going to be those times somebody's going to train for it, and it's not going to work out because they're going to get injured, or there's any number of things that it can get in the way. Yep. You just got to make sure those things are legitimate, right? And that's kind of where you were on your journey. Was there were days where it overwhelmed you a little bit, and you missed a day, but for the most part, you were able to conquer those demons that were in your head, saying, "Oh, you probably don't need to run today. You're tired," right?
The biggest thing that helps me is, if I know I've had a busy work week at the production line, and you're, instead of working 8 hours, you're only working 10 hours. Mm-hmm. I make a commitment when I go out the night before, I put everything in a bag. My shoes, my shirt, my earphones, everything. Put that in a bag, and it's with me. And I can't talk myself out of it then. I have to, I have a place I can stop, change clothes, and go for a run.
That's
for my
awesome.
run. It's there. I've already committed for that day to go.
That's awesome. That's a good way to do it. That's what I've always said. I've always said it's not a matter of am I going to run today? It's when am I going to run today? And it makes a difference in your mindset. And, I think, was it Henry Ford, I think, that said, if you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right. That's where it comes down to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
While you are working hard to keep your body in shape physically, the music you listen to while you run can help keep you in shape spiritually. We have partnered with J Radio to put together a group of running playlists by Mitchell, Lane, Holly, me, and others that you hear on the Run Club podcast. Plus, you can listen to a playlist put together by members of Run Club just like you. Check out the whole station of Run for God playlists now at jradio.com and in the J Radio app.
All right, so we're back, and so by now, probably everybody has heard that I made a trip to Houston, Texas, and I got this opportunity. A guy called me up, and he said that they were going to run a 4x800 meter relay, and he was looking for other guys in his age group, and I happen to be in that age group. And the idea was to try to break the American record for the 4x800 relay for our age group. And I thought that was it was a great opportunity. It's the thing I was talking about a little while ago that Debbie said, yeah, you probably should do that. That's pretty cool. And so these guys, Danny Monestier, he's from Dallas. He was kind of the organizer of this whole thing. He made sure that event was going to be held at this particular meet, and that we did all the things. There's a bunch of stuff you got to do to make sure that a record counts.
Oh, really?
They do this thing, for example, called the zero gun test. And a zero gun test is where they take the starter's pistol and they have to fire it at the starting line, and then it has to show a zero for the time, because basically what it shows is you showed up at the starting line at the same time you started, so it has to show zero.
Wow.
Otherwise, the timing system's not working correctly.
Yeah,
you have to make sure that happens, because if they don't do that, then you can't count it as a record. And so I had to find my birth certificate, and all sorts of things. Yeah. They do all these things to make sure that when a record counts, if it's in the record book, by gosh, it counts.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he was the guy that organized everything, made sure all that was happening. And then a guy named Scott Siriano, he's from Colorado. He's the guy that called me up and talked me into doing this. I remember the first time he called me, I was like, I just can't do it. I can't justify spending all that money to go out there. And anyway, he kept wearing me down and wearing me down and wearing me down. And so I finally did it. And then another guy named Dan Bass, he's from Houston, Texas. And he's kind of the guy, he brought a youth team. If you've seen the video online, there was another team running with us. He brought that team to run with us for that purpose, was to give us somebody to kind of run with us, to try to help move us along, and encourage us and push us. And the guy that ran with me on that last leg, he was so encouraging.
He was big too.
He was big, yeah. Well, he had run a 53-second open 400 not long before that, so way faster than me. But he was just on that outside lane. He said, "I'm gonna stay right here on this outside lane." And he said, "I'm gonna get you there," and just a really super nice guy. So it was a lot of fun, and it was a neat thing to be a part of. And we did set the American record in the 4x800 meter by like 40 something seconds.
Wow, amazing, incredible.
It was fun, but I'll tell you what, that short stuff, man, it hurts. It hurts so bad.
It's like time trials for marathon training.
Oh my goodness! When I crossed the line, my legs almost buckled. I almost fell down. It was like, I tell you, it was fun to watch, because we're all between 55 and 59, and it was so much fun to watch those guys put. The pain on everybody's face coming down that last straightaway was intense. It was, everybody gave everything they had, and that was a lot of fun to see, and a lot of fun to be part of a group like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then before I even caught my breath, we ran the 4x200 relay after that. So that's just a sprint, right? That's just an all-out sprint. And it was fun. But, man, after running those 2 races, my legs were so wobbly to run that short stuff like that. But it's always fun to do something that's a team event, because you know how running is. Running is kind of selfish.
It is. You're individualized.
Yeah. So it's why I've talked before on the podcast about, we run a race every December. It's Club Nationals, we call it, USATF Club Cross Country Championships. And we just love doing it because it's a group of guys that are all similar in age, and we go out there and we do some hardcore battle on the cross country course, and we tell our war stories after we're done. And it's just so much fun. There's something about suffering together.
Yes.
that makes it fun. And that's really kind of what Run Club's all about, isn't it?
Exactly. We all go through the same things.
It's like going to war. Oh. There's camaraderie in a group. You hear, if you know anybody who was in Vietnam, for example, and you've talked with them, you hear them tell these stories, and they've built up these lifelong friendships because they were, when you're in battle with somebody, and of course that what they went through was way tougher than anything we go through in running. Exactly. But the fact that everybody went through it together, and everybody knows how hard it was, and everybody knows you made it to that finish line, is there's just a lot of specialness in that, isn't there?
Very special time.
All right. It is time for Dean's Thoughts, and that's a time when I share something that I've written about the intersection between running and faith. Have you ever taken something out of a box and then had trouble getting it back in the box?
Every time.
This one is called Putting It Back in the Box. Have you ever taken something out of a box and then found that it is nearly impossible to put it back into the box? I'm sure you have either encountered this problem or you're just not willing to admit it. Having said that, I feel like I'm pretty good at it. I remember when I worked at a shoe store when I was in college, I would watch one person after another fail to put the shoes back in the box the proper way. As you know, they don't fit back in the box as well when you put them back in the wrong orientation. What I have learned since then is that some people are good at seeing how things fit into a box and many others are not. I know people who are completely lost anytime they have to fit something back into a tightly oriented box. But that's okay. We all have different talents. Some people can remember names. I sure can't. This box conundrum reminds me of something else that requires us to fit things into a space. Why is it that some people seem to cram so much into a day and others, who accomplish half the work, can't fit one more thing into their day? I would argue that it is a lot like the box issue, or maybe even packing for a trip. Are you one of those people who can pack a bag so tightly it is difficult to lift? Or could you fit a lot more in there if you packed more efficiently? When we go to a cross-country meet, we use a tarp to put on the ground to keep our belongings clean and dry. When we're finished, I like to fold this tarp up nice and neat and put it back in its place. Oh yes, it definitely has a place. Recently, I was at a meet where some parents decided to pack everything up before I got back to the camp. It was a great gesture, but when they folded up the tarp, it wasn't done neatly. It would not fit in the place where it belongs. When I got home, I had to refold it. The example of fitting things into a box and the sloppily folded tarp remind me of another thing I hear all the time. I just don't have enough time to run. The truth is that for many people, they just don't have their tarp folded neatly, so it won't fit. Or they're trying to put the shoes in the box the wrong way. I've always said, presidents of the United States have found time to run. None of us are as busy as the president. I thought I was busy in college between running, working, and studying, but I had a roommate who proved to me that I could do more. A lot more. My roommate graduated with an undergraduate degree and a master's degree in the same amount of time it took me to get my undergraduate degree. You might think he didn't have much else going on, but you'd be wrong. He was on the track team, was a resident assistant in the dorm, and spent about as much time tutoring as I did working. But hold on, you say. I bet he never got any sleep and he was exhausted all the time. Wrong again. He got exactly 8 hours of sleep every night. Needless to say, he was a master at time management. Oh, one more thing. He graduated with highest honors. Maybe just as important were the things that my roommate didn't do. He allowed himself 1 hour a week to watch television. How many people could say they only watch an hour of TV a week? You see, he didn't allow unimportant things to get in the way of the important things. For some people, they really are busy enough that it is difficult to find the time. But the number of people who have legitimate scheduling conflicts is way lower than the number of people who say or think they have a conflict. Do you think maybe you're just not fitting things into the box the most efficient way possible? Have you ever seen a box of running shoes that have been placed back in the box with the paper taken out of the shoes? The box may not even close completely. But if you take that paper and put it back in the shoe, they fit easily into the box. We can often organize a day better if we're thoughtful and purposeful about how we pack it. There's a story about Martin Luther that I have mentioned before, but it is instructive here. He was talking with someone and telling them how much he had on his schedule for the following day. He said, "I have so much to do that I shall spend the first 3 hours in prayer." Everything is about priority, right? There are things that can be neglected, like a television program, and things that cannot, like prayer time. What are you prioritizing? Are they the right things in God's eyes? We can fit more meaningful things into our box if we'll just organize it the right way.
Great story.
Time management is so important.
Very much important. I see it a lot in the plant.
Yeah. When you look at how things are made in a plant, then the way that you use your time becomes you probably the job that you do now. I'll bet when you first started doing it, you weren't nearly as efficient as you are now.
Oh no,
right?
No, I couldn't.
Took a lot more time to do that thing.
Yeah,
but you became more efficient as you learned how to make yourself more efficient at it. Yeah. Just after college, I was really good at it because of this roommate that I had. I mean, this roommate, his name was Don Livingston, and it was amazing. It was amazing. I've never seen anybody so organized in all my life, and that includes Mitchell Hollis. This guy, I'm telling you, it was seriously. He slept 8 hours every night, exactly 8 hours. He went to bed at 10 o'clock every night and woke up at 6 a.m. every morning, the same time every single day. And it was fun to watch, but it was also a little annoying. You know, I remember one day that I drank some of his milk out of the refrigerator, and I thought, well, it's just a half cup of milk. You know, it's just a little bit. I was thirsty, so I drank a little bit of his milk. Well, he came in a little bit later and he goes, "Did you drink some of my milk?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just had a little bit." He said, "Well, you know, I portioned that out for the week so that it lasts me exactly a week." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy." But I learned so much from that because I never used the excuse after that I just don't have enough time to do it, because it was like, at that point, it was like, well, if he's got time to do all these things that he's doing and do them in a great fashion, then I don't have any excuse. And so yeah. And you know how we talk about how God puts people in our paths? I think he put Don in my path so that I could learn that, because I think that was a valuable lesson for me in life. We talk about this all the time, how we need to be the example that other people watch, and that we shine his light as we talk about all the time, because that's how people learn from us, and that's how people get to see how special it is to be a Christ follower, right? And that's what he did. All I did was watch him. He didn't give me any classes on how to use my time better. All I had to do was watch, and I became better at it.
You know, I'm classified as the old guy in the place where I work now. I'm the gray hair, and it's amazing that some people call you, Mr. Shannon. But it's, and the new kids that come in, they have no idea how we do things.
Yeah.
And how things are supposed to be done, and we do them this way. And that's how you teach younger people. That's how we do things.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, that's fun. And our witness works just like that. It's the things that we do and the things that we say. It's not always matter of fact, most of the time, it's not a direct interaction with somebody with words. It's the way that we carry ourselves very often.
I'm blessed in the job that I have. I get to wear my Run for God shirt to work every day.
Yeah. That's a good example. And people probably ask you about that. Yeah. And and here's the idea is we have to be different enough for people to notice. Right. That was the thing about Don that was special about Don was you couldn't help but notice that he was different. And it drew me to him and drew me to want to be a little like him because of the way he was. And I think that's how we're to be as Christians. We're to stand out and to be different from the rest of the world. Exactly. So that people look at us and go, what does that guy have that's different from what I have, right? Yep. So it doesn't mean we have to be more talented.
No.
Just if we're close to God and God is shining through us, people are going to notice. It's just that simple. You know anybody like that? You got any influences in your life that shaped your life in that kind of a way?
My dad.
Your dad, yeah.
I worked with my dad from high school up until 7 or 8 years ago. We worked with each other every day. 6 days a week. Yeah. And I saw him build a business and I saw him, what it took to build a business and my dad showed me a lot of different things, even in life. He taught us that we had to be at church every Sunday and that our business was never be open on Sunday, and it was not. Yeah. It's just amazing.
That's a great example.
It is.
Great example. Yeah, I've talked before about how much Debbie has changed me. I told her, I said, this was a whole lot easier before I married you when I didn't have a heart. Now you've forced me to recognize that I have a heart. And we joke about it all the time, but it's true. It's funny how people that you're around, you just become more like them.
Oh yeah.
And so what we want to do is we all want to be more Christ-like. The more Christ-like we are, then maybe the more we're rubbing off on other people.
Exactly.
In that way. And that's what Debbie has made me more compassionate just by watching her compassion. And I just think that's important. So, and again, this story is kind of talking about time management and how we fit things into the day, and a lot of this is about priority. And I mentioned the quote from Martin Luther in there where he said, I've got so much to do that I'm going to have to pray more, and often we do the opposite. We think, well, I'm going to have to spend less time in prayer because I got more to do. Well, that's not the way he looked at it. And the truth is, God will help us get the things he wants us to do. He'll make sure we get them done.
Sure does. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. So, people are watching us.
Exactly.
No matter whether you're a good example or a bad example, people are watching us.
Exactly.
And so, I think that's important. What's great about your story that we just shared here just a minute ago is that most people like hearing your story. People don't want to hear about the struggles of my struggles of a sub 3 hour marathoner. That people don't want, it's like, that's a whole different world that I don't live in. Right. And so, it's so important. And everybody's that way. Everybody has a thing, and their story can affect people because it's their story. Exactly. Because they're like somebody else, right? And so we have a lot more 6 or 7 hour marathoners in Run Club than we have 3 hour marathoners.
Exactly. Right.
And that's great. It's great. People, we all struggle differently.
Oh.
And it's great if we can share the way we struggle so other people can see that. So the key is everybody is an expert, right? Everybody is an expert in something.
Exactly.
And you know what you're an expert in? You're an expert in your story. You're an expert in your life and the way you've gone through your life. And there's so many people out there who think they don't have a story. We talk about that all the time. How people think they don't have a story, but
people have stories. They don't even know they have a story, but they do have a story,
and they doubt it. Think about Moses. Okay, Moses probably thought. Well, we know how Moses doubted himself right at the beginning. I'm not a speaker, God. You can't put me in front of a bunch of people to lead people. I can't speak in front of people, right? And he doubted himself. But what happened? God said, "We'll work this thing out. I just need you to do what I need you to do." Gideon was another one. Well, I'm the least of the least family. I'm a nobody. Why in the world would you call on me, God? That's crazy for you to call on me. But that's kind of the point. Is God wants to use a 7-hour marathoner as an example a lot of times, rather than the guy who ran 2:10 at the Boston Marathon, because people relate to that, and it's important, and everybody relates to people in different ways. And so, again, if you're out there, whatever your story is, you need to share your story with people.
Exactly.
Need to share your story.
If you've ever participated in any sport, you've probably met a great coach. Great coaches inspire us to do more than we ever thought possible. You can be the leader that helps others achieve things they never thought possible. You have the ability and the opportunity to be that person. All you need is a heart to help people and the ability to follow a plan. The Run for God 5K Challenge will come ready to help you inspire those around you. The step-by-step guide will direct you how to plan, pray, and train people both physically and spiritually. You can help them become more fit in their health and in their walk with Christ. Share your passion. Go to runforgod.com to find out how to inspire others to accomplish big things.
All right, we're back, and I found this online on this Quora, I guess is the way you say it, and I thought this was interesting. So this a guy named Vince Monacle. He's ex-Googler, but he has done a few things. Investor, he does some things. Anyway, it says his question was, or maybe this was the answer to the question. Why do runners enjoy running so much? It just seems to me that nothing on earth could possibly be less enjoyable. Yet people who run claim to love doing so. What gives? Don't you love that question?
I love the question. It comes from somebody that didn't know about running. It really does.
Yeah. Well, here's the way he answers it. He says, many great answers here, but one important point isn't made clear. There is a reason most people think running, and excuse me for the language, but this is the way he wrote it. There's a reason why most people think running sucks. It's because running sucks. If you're out of shape or you are running at a pace that drives your heart rate up to painful levels. This scenario probably describes the experience of 90% of the world, 90% plus of the world has with running, myself included, for 42 of the 44 years of my life. In other words, what he's saying is running stinks because running stinks if you do it wrong, right?
Exactly.
So 2 years ago, I decided to run a 3-mile turkey trot on Thanksgiving Day. And he says, I pushed hard. I was out of breath. My heart rate was at dangerous levels. It was painful. I couldn't walk normally for a week afterwards, and my finish time was embarrassingly slow. He said, luckily, my wife's friend is a marathon trainer. When I relayed this story to her, along with my strong hatred of running, she simply challenged me. You don't understand running. That intellectual challenge made all the difference. I started reading running books. I bought a heart rate monitor. I figured out what my target is and estimated max heart rates were. I worked within my current abilities. I eventually started some strength training alongside the running. I relearned some basic anatomy and facts about muscle tissue. I learned some basic yoga stretches. I started getting periodic massages. I learned how efficient running was as a form of exercise. I learned that an early run made the rest of my day better. I learned that after a run, almost nothing could get me super stressed. I learned that while regularly running, I could pretty much eat as much as anything I wanted and not gain weight. That 3-mile turkey trot 2 years ago was at the time equal to the longest run of my life. I've since run 2 half marathons, a marathon, and clocked a much less embarrassing time in a subsequent turkey trot. My guess is that not all, but the majority of people who hate running don't understand it and have never really experienced it. I'm glad to have found it and understood it better after all these years. A bit bummed I didn't find it earlier, but hey, at least I still have strong knees. Isn't that a great post? I love that post because this is so true, and it's kind of at the heart of the 5K challenge. Because it is true that so many people, they start running and they just go out there and they hammer their body half to death, and then it hurts so bad. They're like, why would anybody like to do this? And I can understand that.
Oh, I remember the first run I made. It was hard, and I hurt so much, and
yeah,
the more I did it, the more I liked it.
Yeah, well, yeah. But so many people quit doing it after that first time. So, So many people try it, and they try it wrongly. Is that a word? Wrongly?
Yes.
Is that wrongly? Yeah. So did you try it before the first Run for God class, or was that the first time you tried it? You said you ran in school.
I ran in high school. I was a slow guy on the mile team. Yeah. And I run the 880. So I did a little bit of 880, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm that guy who I want to research everything before I do it. You know what I mean? Now, if I just see something that looks cool, I'll watch it for a minute and then I'll jump right into it. But for the most part, I'm not usually that guy who goes into things completely blind. Although I certainly have some things. But one of the things that I love is I love to learn about the things that I do, the things that how things work and things like that. I loved it. When I was a kid, I used to take things apart all the time because I wanted to see how it worked.
I'm all thumbs. Not me, I'm all thumbs now. My brother's the other way around. No, Shannon, don't take apart anything,
Yeah, I would say you could see the coaching, the idea that I love to coach and all. You saw, people could have seen that when I was a kid. Because I remember back in my high school days when I was with my coach, I peppered him with questions. I wanted him to know why. Why are we doing this workout? What's the significance of this? And so he would answer me. He would come back with me, and I think that was. I think the coach loved it. I know as a coach today, I love the ones I like the ones that challenge me and go, don't you think this run is a little bit too long? Or, I like that because it makes me think about things in a different way. If their mind is working that way, I like to know that. And so, I've always been that way. I love to see how things are working. Now, a lot of people don't know that you're an expert. It was landscaping business. You mentioned your dad's business, right? And so, understanding plants and all of those things and the things that surround them is something that
still love it today.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm 8 years far from it, but I still love it today.
And you're still planting stuff around the house, I'm sure.
Still planting around the house, and I still board gay with. I know what that is, and I know what that is, and I know what that is. It's just, about all these plants. I still, it's just things you never forget. It's just things that you learn along the way, and I'm always want my mind challenged with something that. I like to have my mind challenged with different things, and with plants, it was challenging to, what happened? Why did that plant die, or why is it not growing, or it needs to go right here?
That's pretty cool. Yeah, my brother is he works in lighting, and so he's really annoying because we'll walk into some place and he'll start looking up at the light fixtures. And tell you what the light fixtures are, so where they came from, what company made them, and he's a geek about light fixtures. But I think that's cool for all of us, right? Yeah, that we love what we do enough to learn that much about it because we just love it. It's pretty cool. How about a trivia question for this week? And you may have to dig a little bit for this one. Okay, so it's real simple. Who was Margaret Haggerty? So if you Google it now, you're going to find a lot of non-related answers. So there's a lot of people named Margaret Haggerty out there, but one of them is going to be different than the rest, and you're going to see what I mean if you Google it. If you don't know, if you know who Margaret Haggerty is, great, that's fantastic. But if you don't and you Google it, you may have to dig a little bit in those results to find it. So, interesting lady. So check her out. And if you are the first to get back to me with the correct answer, you can send that to dean@runforgod.com. And if you're the first one to send it to me, then we're going to send you a Run for God tumbler. And everybody wants a Run for God tumbler.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so this is the only way you can get one, is to be first to answer the
I'm going to figure out who she is when I get home.
There you go. All right. And then every week I share a reason why running is so awesome. And so here's my reason this week, okay? My reason why running is awesome this week is Shannon and Shannon. Now, what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about Shannon Coker, who's sitting across from me, who you just heard his incredible story of this marathon journey that he was on. But another personal friend of mine who ran in this same race, also named Shannon, and a C last name too. So we have Shannon Coker, and Shannon Coley is also a guy who ran. He's over 40. He's in crazy good. I mean, he really, really takes good care of himself. His daughter runs on our cross-country team. He's the cross-country coach at the high school. But he just recently started taking running seriously. He's a soccer coach mostly, and always has been. The cross-country thing is more of a recent thing over the last several years. And so he really has gotten into, and he loves trail running more than he does road running. And he's really getting into it. He's helped form this team up in Chattanooga and all sorts of stuff. Wow. But he ran a 3 hour and 10-minute marathon at Disney.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I remember I didn't really know how he was going to do. And so on our last long run, he said he was going to do a long run. And I said, well, hey, why don't we do it together? We'll do a 20-miler together. So we did our 20-miler, he and I together. And man, I had a hard time keeping up with him. And I was thinking, wow. I told him, I said, dude, you're going to crush it. And he did.
He did.
So that's a really good example. And again, I wanted to point out with Shannon, he really pays attention to the stuff he puts in his body. He doesn't put garbage in his body at all. I mean, I'm literally one time we had a get together at the house and we served hot dogs off the grill. Shannon didn't want to eat a hot dog. He hadn't eaten a hot dog in years.
Oh, goodness.
And so, because that's how he is, and that's why his body is so strong today, even though he's gotten up in age. And this is really the first competitive marathon he's ever run. So, but I want to say this: it's never too late to get going.
Exactly.
Right? And you know that 60 years old, running your first marathon. I mean, shoot. Our motivational thought of the week is this, and this comes from an unknown author, but I like the sentiment. And actually, I got to give Debbie credit. She's the one that found this. We can't always choose the music life plays for us, but we can choose how we dance to it. Isn't that a great sentiment?
It is that's an awesome quote.
Yeah, it goes along with last week's quote. Last week we talked about how we can choose happiness or sadness, joy or revenge. There's so many emotions out there. But here's the thing. We all make a choice on how we're going to approach a day. And it is a choice. I know a lot of people look at it and they think that it's not really a choice. It's whatever comes at me. No, it's how you react to it. And whatever those bad circumstances are, a lot of times how we react to it makes all the difference. So how many times do we need to see good things come from bad situations before we believe that it's okay to go through those bad circumstances, right? So choose joy today. All right. Well, thanks for being with me today, Shannon. It's been fun.
It's been a good time. I really enjoyed it.
Well, good. I'm glad. We'll have to do it again someday, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. Now, if you're out there, get after it. Get on the running trail or the road or wherever it is you like to run and get those feet a-moving. Now, may God bless every step of every run. Go out there and shine your light.
Good job, Dean.
For more information about the Run for God ministry, go to runforgod.com. If you have questions about your salvation, click on the Peace with God tab. There's nothing more important. Thanks for joining us today.